What happens when the Kafka broker holding your partition leader suddenly crashes? Does the application stop? Are messages lost? Or can Kafka recover automatically? In this video, we'll follow a real broker failure from the crash to replication, ISR, leader election, and application recovery. Imagine an e-commerce application processing an order. The Kafka broker hosting the partition leader suddenly goes down. Producers and consumers still need to continue working. So the big question is, how does Kafka keep the data available when one broker disappears? A broker failure sounds simple, but several things happen internally. The leader disappears, replicas remain, and Kafka must decide who takes over. The key question is, can any replica become the new leader? No. Kafka uses the ISR, or in-sync replica set, to make this decision. Here we have a Kafka topic with replicated partitions spread across multiple brokers. One replica acts as the leader, while the others are followers. Producers normally write through the leader, and followers replicate the data. This architecture is what allows Kafka to survive individual broker failures. Kafka replication means each partition can have multiple replicas on different brokers. If the leader fails, another replica can take over. For example, with a replication factor of 3, Kafka can maintain 3 copies of a partition across separate brokers, improving availability and fault tolerance. ISR stands for in-sync replicas. These are replicas that are sufficiently caught up with the partition leader. When a broker fails, Kafka prefers an in-sync replica for leadership. This is important because choosing a replica that is behind could result in missing recently written data. When the leader broker fails, Kafka detects the failure and elects a new leader from the eligible in-sync replicas. Producers then discover the new leader and continue writing. Consumers also refresh their metadata and continue reading from the new partition leader. Let's follow the complete flow. Broker 1 fails. Its partition leader disappears. Kafka detects the failure, selects an eligible ISR replica, and makes it the new leader. The other replica remains available for replication. The application can then recover without rebuilding the entire system. During a broker failure, requests may temporarily fail while clients discover the new leader. Producers can receive errors and retry. Consumers may briefly pause while refreshing metadata. The important point is that a temporary failure does not automatically mean permanent data loss. Internally, Kafka detects that the broker is unavailable, updates cluster metadata, and triggers leader election. The new leader starts serving requests. Producers and consumers refresh their metadata and reconnect to the correct broker. This happens automatically when the cluster is configured correctly. The solution is fault tolerance through replication, ISR, and automatic leader election. Instead of depending on one broker, Kafka distributes replicas across multiple brokers. When one fails, an eligible replica can take over. This is the foundation of Kafka high availability. After the new leader is elected, producers can resume publishing and consumers can resume consuming. When the failed broker returns, its replicas can catch up with the current leader. Kafka therefore moves from failure to recovery without requiring the entire application to restart. In production, configuration matters. Replication factor, minimum in-sync replicas, and producer acknowledgements influence reliability. Using acknowledgements such as AX equals all can require successful replication before confirming a write. These settings should be chosen based on your availability, durability, and latency requirements. In a Spring Boot application, producer reliability can be improved with settings such as AX equals all and idempotence enabled. The important point is not just copying configuration. You need to understand what each setting protects against, what latency it adds, and how it affects failure recovery. A production Kafka design should avoid depending on a single broker. Spread replicas across separate brokers and, where appropriate, across failure domains. Monitor broker health, replication status, and consumer behavior. The goal is not simply surviving a failure, but detecting and recovering from it safely. One common mistake is assuming that replication factor 3 automatically guarantees zero data loss. It does not. Data safety also depends on ISR status, producer acknowledgements, minimum in-sync replicas, and application behavior. Another mistake is ignoring monitoring until after a failure occurs. Kafka reliability has trade-offs. Stronger durability can increase latency. More replicas consume more storage and network bandwidth. Higher availability can require additional infrastructure. Production design is therefore about balancing reliability, performance, cost, and operational complexity rather than choosing one setting blindly. In an interview, I would say, when a Kafka broker fails, Kafka detects the failure and elects a new leader from the eligible in-sync replicas. Producers and consumers refresh metadata and reconnect to the new leader. Replication, ISR, acknowledgements, and minimum in-sync replicas determine the level of durability and availability. Now test yourself with 5 follow-up questions. What is ISR? Why is leader election important? What happens if all ISR replicas are unavailable? How do AX and minimum in-sync replicas affect durability? And what happens to producers and consumers after a leader changes? These questions take the discussion deeper. Remember these key points. Broker failures are expected in distributed systems. Replication provides redundancy. ISR helps protect data during leader election, and clients recover by refreshing metadata. Now we know what happens when a broker fails. Next, we'll solve another important question. How do Kafka partitions control scalability and ordering?